The first thing she felt was heat. Not warmth, but the kind that cooks the air until breathing hurts. The second thing was pain, white and blinding, ripping through her leg and into her hip like something had snapped and refused to let go. Eliza Monroe lay twisted on the hard summer ground, dress torn, skin scraped raw, dust sticking to sweat and blood. Her right knee was bent the wrong way, pulled sideways, locked in a shape a human body was never meant to hold. Every time she tried to move, fire shot up her spine and stole her breath. She had been dragged, not by a man, by her own horse, panicked, running hard through dry grass and barbed wire after the gunshots started. The wire had kissed her thigh and hip, shallow cuts burning red. The fall had finished the rest. The knee went out with a sound she would never forget. Eliza screamed once, just once. Then she bit her lip and swallowed the rest because screaming only brought hunters faster. The Texas summer pressed down on her like a hand. Flies gathered. The world narrowed to the sound of her own breathing and the pulse in her ears. She tried to crawl. Her arms moved. Her body did not. That was when the shadow fell across her face, and it was tall, wide, still. For one terrible second, she thought they had found her. She reached for the knife hidden in her boot, but her fingers shook too hard. The man knelt into her vision, slow and controlled, one knee touching the earth. A cowboy, broad shoulders, weathered hands, a face carved by years of sun and dust. He did not smile. He did not reach for a gun. His eyes went straight to her leg. Caleb Hart knew the look of a body that was breaking. Eliza sucked in air, panic clawing up her throat. She shook her head weakly. "Don't." Her voice cracked. Caleb set his hat aside and placed one steady hand on her thigh, just above the knee, firm but not rough. She flinched hard, a sob tearing out of her before she could stop it. "I can't move," she gasped. "It's out. It's out." Caleb nodded once, no surprise, no judgment. "You're gonna have to let me do this." His voice was low, even. She looked at his hands, then at the empty horizon behind him. No riders yet, but not for long. Tears streaked the dust on her face as the pain spiked again. Her fingers dug into the ground. "Just do it already, Kat," she begged. "Set it back, please." And Caleb realized, the second he touched that knee, there was no clean way out of what came next. Caleb's jaw tightened. He shifted closer, bracing her leg with his knee, positioning his hands with the kind of certainty that only comes from hard years and worse choices. "Don't fight me," he said. "Breathe on 3. She tried to laugh. It came out as a broken sound. Her breath hitched. 2. Her vision swam. 3. The pain exploded, sharp and final, ripping a scream from her chest. Then it changed, not gone, but different, duller. Survivable. Her stomach rolled and the world tilted. Eliza gagged, then went limp for a heartbeat. Caleb caught her shoulder fast. He didn't celebrate. He worked. He grabbed 2 straight sticks from the grass and slid them along her leg. Then he wrapped them tight with cloth so the knee couldn't wander again. Eliza collapsed back into the dirt, shaking, gasping, live. Caleb was already tearing a strip of cloth from his bandana, binding her knee to the splints, locking it down like he'd done it 100 times. Urgent. That was when he saw the dust plume on the horizon. Low, fast, riders. Caleb didn't just see dust, he read it. The plume was too steady for a lost traveler, too wide for one horse. That meant a pack, and packs only run one way. Toward something they think belongs to them. Eliza followed his stare and her face changed. Not fear exactly, more like resignation. Like she'd already pictured her own ending and was tired of arguing with it. Caleb hated that look. He'd seen it on men who didn't make it back from a long ride. He leaned closer and whispered, "If you can talk, tell me one thing right now. Are they coming to take you? Or to silence you for good?" He cursed under his breath. If this story has you hooked already, take a second and subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. And tell me in the comments what kind of Wild West story you want next. Outlaw, justice, frontier survival, or secrets buried in small towns. Caleb slid an arm under Eliza's shoulders and lifted her before she could protest. Pain flared, but she bit it back. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She swallowed hard. "Because I ran." He didn't like that answer. He carried her toward his horse, every step measured, every second stolen. Behind them, the dust grew thicker. As he set her against the saddle, Eliza clutched his sleeve, her eyes locked onto his, fierce despite the pain. "If you help me," she said, "they'll come for you too." Caleb paused. For the first time, doubt crossed his face. The riders were close enough now that he could hear the faint jingle of tack. "So here's the question. Would you ride away and save yourself, or would you stay and face the men hunting a broken girl in the Texas heat?" Caleb did not argue with the warning. He lifted Eliza the rest of the way and settled her against the saddle, careful with her leg, firm with everything else. The horse shifted but did not spook. It knew Caleb. The riders were still distant, but the sound carried in the heat. Leather, metal, men who expected to catch what they were chasing. Caleb swung up behind her and clicked his tongue. The horse moved. Not fast. Not yet. Eliza's breath started coming in little stutters. Her fingers slipped once off the saddle horn and she grabbed again like she was drowning. Caleb felt her sag and he slowed the horse on purpose. Fast riding would finish her. Eliza clung to the saddle horn, teeth clenched. Every step sent a reminder through her knee and hip. But she stayed quiet. Quiet was how you stayed alive. They rode low through the grass, then dropped into a shallow cut in the land, so the riders behind them couldn't read the trail as easily. It was not much, a small ranch house. A corral that leaned a little, a windmill that squeaked when the breeze was right. But it was his. Tom Renshaw was out by the corral like he'd been waiting. Caleb felt a small prickle in his neck. Tom was a good hand, but good hands didn't stand around empty. Tom was standing still, too still, and when he waved, it looked like he was waving at the horizon first. Not at Caleb. Caleb told himself it was nothing. A man can see ghosts in daylight when he's tired. Still, he noticed Tom's horse was already saddled, not loose, not resting, ready. That detail sat in Caleb's mind like a pebble in a boot, small enough to ignore, sharp enough to ruin your whole day if you keep walking. Caleb glanced back once. The dust plume shifted, slowed, then split. Two groups. He frowned. That meant planning. "You got a name?" he asked, like it mattered. "Eliza," she said. "Last?" She hesitated. That told him enough. "All right," he said. "Eliza it is." The ride felt longer than it was. Heat pressed down, sweat ran into Caleb's eyes. Eliza's grip tightened and loosened with every jolt. When the ranch finally came into view, she sagged in relief. Caleb did not. He dismounted and helped her down, setting her on a crate by the porch. Her legs shook as soon as weight left it. He caught it. Steady. Wrapping the cloth tighter. "Don't move," he said. "Don't try to be brave." She huffed a breath. Too late for that. He almost smiled. Inside the house was cool and dim. He laid her on the narrow bed and brought water. She drank slowly, hands trembling. "Who were those men?" he asked. She stared at the ceiling. "People who don't like loose ends." He waited. She exhaled. "They think I have something." Caleb leaned against the table, arms crossed. "Do you—" "Yes." "Is it worth dying for?" She turned her head and met his eyes. "It already killed someone." That earned a longer look. Caleb stepped outside then. He scanned the horizon. The dust had thinned. The riders had slowed. Too slow. He went to the corral and checked the gate. The latch was wrong, not broken, moved. Caleb pressed his thumb to the wood and found a fresh scrape. New, not sun-worn, not old. Someone had opened it gentle. The way you do when you don't want a hinge to sing. That was a man trying to leave no trace. Caleb looked toward the house and pictured Eliza inside, boot in her hands. He pictured Wade smiling in the yard. Then he pictured the distance between those two things shrinking, fast. He took a breath and told himself one rule his father taught him. When something feels off on your land, it is off. And if it is off today, it will be worse by morning. He felt it settle in his gut, that old feeling, the one that told you this day was not going to end clean. When he came back inside, Eliza was sitting up, pale but alert. She had her boot in her hands, fingers working at the sole. "Don't," he said. She froze. "I'm not running," she said. "I just need to know it's still there." "There is a there," he said. She nodded. Caleb rubbed his face. "All right." Outside, a horse snorted. Not his. Caleb reached for the rifle by the door and paused. Then he set it down. The knock came soft, polite. "Caleb Hart," a voice called. "You home?" Eliza's eyes widened. Caleb stepped onto the porch. Sheriff Wade Harlan stood in the yard. Hat tipped back, smile easy. Two men flanked him, both armed, both relaxed in a way that meant trouble. "Afternoon," Wade said. "Heard you picked up a traveler." Caleb kept his voice even. "Found her hurt." "That's so." Wade's eyes drifted past him, toward the door. "Mind if we take a look?" "You mind if I ask why?" Caleb said. Wade chuckled. "Just doing my job." One of the deputies stepped forward and bent, lifting something from the dirt. A scrap of yellow cloth lay in the dirt like it had been dropped on purpose. Wade lifted it between two fingers and smiled. "Funny thing," he said. "This looks a lot like what we found near a body yesterday." Caleb's jaw tightened. "That body wasn't here," he said. "No," Wade agreed. "But this was—" Wade's smile never reached his eyes. "She got a name?" he asked. Caleb answered without turning. "Eliza." Wade nodded slowly. "That's the name we were given." Inside the house, Eliza's breath caught. Caleb felt it then, the snap of it, the clean line between before and after. Helping her had not ended on the grass. Caleb had sworn years ago he wouldn't get tangled up again. Not after the last time he trusted a badge and paid for it in fire and silence. But there she was, shaking on his floor, and his promise didn't feel like honor anymore. It felt like cowardice. It had followed him home. Wade adjusted his belt. "We'll need to ask her some questions." Caleb did not move. The windmill squeaked. A fly buzzed. Somewhere in the distance, a horse whinnied. Caleb looked at Wade, really looked at him, and understood that whatever Eliza carried in that boot, it had already reached this yard. So here's what you need to ask yourself. When the law smiles and asks nicely, do you step aside, or do you realize too late that the trap is already set? Caleb did not step aside. He stepped forward. Sheriff Wade Harlan watched that choice land, and his smile thinned just a little. "Easy now," Wade said. "We are all neighbors here." Caleb kept his hands loose at his sides. Loose, but ready. "You can ask your questions from the yard," he said. Wade chuckled again. "That is not how this works." One of the deputies shifted his weight. His hand brushed the grip of his revolver. Casual. Practiced. Caleb felt the old anger rise, the kind that came when men with clean words tried to box you in. Inside the house, Eliza listened, breath shallow. She could hear every tone change, every pause. She had seen this before, the law when it already knew the ending. Wade stepped closer to the porch. "You found her hurt," he said. "That makes you a witness." Caleb nodded. "So far." "And witnesses sometimes get tangled up," Wade continued, "especially when there is blood involved." He held up the yellow cloth again. His thumb rubbed a clean edge on it, like he already knew exactly what it was, letting it catch the light. "That was in your dirt." Caleb met his eyes. "So was your boot." The air tightened. Wade laughed, but it was forced. "You always were stubborn." He tipped his hat toward the door. "Let us see the girl." Caleb did not move. Wade sighed. "All right." He turned his head slightly. The deputy nearest the door moved. That was when Eliza spoke. "Stop." Her voice carried, thin but steady. She stood in the doorway, one hand braced against the frame. She kept all her weight off the bad leg. shaking like the door frame was the only thing holding her up. Pain cut across her face, but she didn't give Wade the satisfaction of seeing her fold. Wade looked surprised, then pleased. "There she is," he said. Caleb shot her a look. She ignored it. "You want to ask question?" She said. "Ask them." Wade smiled wider. "Fair enough." He stepped closer. "You run from somewhere." She nodded. "Yes." "You leave a man dead behind you." "No." "You carry something that does not belong to you." She paused. Caleb felt it then. That pause was going to cost them. "I carry something people kill for," she said. The deputy stiffened. Wade's eyes sharpened. "That sounds like a confession," Caleb cut in. "Sounds like fear." Wade waved him off. "Fear comes after." He turned back to Eliza. "Where did you get it?" She swallowed. "I copied it." Wade blinked. "Copied what?" "Land records," she said. "Water rights." That did it. The easy smiles vanished. Caleb felt the ground shift under his feet. Water rights meant power. Meant money. Meant men like Silas Crow. Wade's voice stayed calm, but it was different now. "You are saying dangerous things," he said. "I'm saying true ones," Eliza replied. Wade studied her, then he laughed. "She is confused," he said to Caleb. "Hurt people get confused." Caleb did not answer. Wade straightened. "We will take her into town." Eliza's hand clenched on the door frame. Caleb stepped between them. "No." The word landed heavy. Wade tilted his head. "You are making this harder than it needs to be." Caleb leaned closer. "That depends on who you work for." Silence. The windmill squeaked again. Wade's eyes flicked away for a split second. "Just long enough." Caleb saw it. "So that is it," Caleb said. "You already sold this." Wade's jaw tightened. "Careful," he warned. Eliza shifted her weight. Pain flashed across her face. Caleb glanced back at her, then made his choice. "You are not taking her," he said. One deputy moved, too fast. Caleb reacted without thinking. He shoved Wade back, hard. The yard exploded into motion. A fist swung, Caleb ducked, countered, bone met bone. Air rushed out of a man's lungs. Eliza screamed once. Another deputy reached for his gun. Caleb kicked dirt into his eyes and drove him into the fence. Wade staggered back, furious now. "You are finished," he spat. Caleb grabbed the yellow cloth and held it up. "You planted this." Wade laughed again. "Wild." "Prove it." Hooves thundered in the distance. More riders. Caleb felt the weight of it crash down. This was bigger than a misunderstanding. Bigger than a hurt girl in his bed. Eliza leaned against the post, breathing hard. She met Caleb's eyes. "I told you," she said softly. He nodded. The riders came into view. Not deputies, no. Men in dark dusters. Crow's men. Wade stepped aside, cleared the way. There it was, the truth, naked and ugly. Caleb felt something cold settle in his chest. Regret, not for helping her, for believing this land still played fair. Wade tipped his hat. "Looks like you are outnumbered." Caleb squared his shoulders. "So are you." The men slowed, watching. Eliza shifted closer to Caleb. Her voice dropped. "If they take me," she said, "they will burn this place." Caleb did not look away from the riders. "Then we do not let them take you," he said. The men spread out, closing in. And that was the moment Caleb realized something else. Someone had already told them exactly where to stand. So here's what you should be asking now. Who sold them that knowledge? And how close was the traitor standing to Caleb right now? Caleb did not wait for the men to finish spreading out. He stepped back toward the porch and lowered his voice. Inside, Eliza did not argue. She turned and moved as fast as her leg would allow. Caleb followed, closing the door behind them. The sound of boots shifted outside, not rushed, confident. He slid the bar into place and leaned his weight against it. Eliza sat hard on the bed, breath ragged. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. You see it now, she said. Caleb nodded. Yeah. He rubbed his neck, thinking fast. Wade, Crow, men who did not ride out here for nothing. They know my land, he said. Where the fence dips, where the windmill blocks the line. Eliza looked down at her boot. I never meant to drag you into this, Caleb snorted softly. Dragging is what happens when you have no choice. A voice carried through the door. Wait again. Caleb. Be